Hi there, welcome to Real Talk with Angry Soccer Mom. The goal of each show is to have an open conversation about racism and encourage white Americans to educate ourselves about our real racial history. So let's get started. Today in the United States, white Americans could easily support equality by just becoming educated about our real racial history. We just don't want to. Racial cruelty in the form of racist discrimination, it's not an inevitable part of society. I can't tell you how many people tell me there's nothing we can do about it. It's just the way it is. That is a total cop-out. And the crazy part is that supporting real equality, supporting real civil rights for our sisters and brothers of color would actually benefit white people a ton. Hey, Bob. So, uniting would allow us to demand a more balanced distribution of wealth in the United States, which would help everybody. So, we're only hurting ourselves and our brothers and sisters of color by not joining with them and helping them get the equality that they're owed. So, but instead of, with Trump, he's fooled all the white people into voting for him so that he can create tax breaks for himself. Hi, Sage. He can create tax breaks for himself. Meanwhile, everyone who's not ultra rich is struggling to make, ends meet. And we're fools. He's made fools of white people. Well, they've made fools of themselves, but, we love our racism so much that we pretty much nothing else matters. I guess, I don't know what you guys think, but it's like we love our racism so much. I don't get it. But this false history propaganda has created this culture where we never address, at least white people don't, we never address the systemic racism head on. We're always just kind of, it's not really there. We're pretending it's not really there, kind of. I don't know what's going on, but it needs to change through education. So let me just check something here. Here's the thing. Because of these deceptive and purposeful lies that are upheld over time, today, most white folks are too uncomfortable and fearful and just really stressed out to even talk about racism, let alone take definitive action to dismantle the system. So this has to change. We can't continue this way, and it's up to white American people to teach other white Americans the truth and they have to learn the real truth so they'll stop this. It's killing people. So before we break down systemic racism in America's justice system, I wanted to say, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Angry Soccer Mom, and my goal is to educate white America about our racial history. My YouTube channel is called Angry Soccer Mom. Hi, Neil. And I'd love it if you would check it out and subscribe to it. I run a number of platforms. If you're interested in getting further information, I would love you to be involved. Just personal message me and I will get back to you. So Sage says, what do you think of some of the people calling racists mentally ill? It's actually a great question. Hey, Tracy, thank you for being here. I theorize all the time, personally, about what it is. If it's the propensity to be, I'm not sure. If I had a definitive answer, I think it makes for a nice excuse. But people who believe lies and cling on to them to the point where they're killing people and they're making excuse after excuse, you got to wonder if there is some sort of propensity to some sort of mental illness, because it's so illogical. It's like they're not thinking right, which is a part of some personality disorders. I'm not a psychiatrist, but I've thought about it tremendously. It's a great question, Sage. I don't know, but I would hate for that to be an excuse to allow it, But anyway, we should make a live show of that. Hey, Darren, that's definitely a great question, and I should probably get an expert on to talk about that, because I've read a lot, but I don't know what to say. So let's break this down. You see if there. Oh, Tracy, the only people that can solve the problem are the ones that created it. Thank you. I believe it's our responsibility to do so. Like I always say, and I always end up saying this during each live show. It's like, would you walk by a pool with a person suffering and drowning and not doing very well, and walk by because you didn't build the freaking pool, or you didn't shove them in? No way. I mean, white people did this. It's time for white America to take some racial responsibility, and it doesn't have to be this horrible, terrible thing. You just have to educate yourself. So anyway, Tracy, that is an excellent point. We are responsible for this, and it's way past time that we take responsibility. And so that's kind of why I do a lot of this stuff. I want to teach the white people. But anyway, I'll get off on a rant here. Hi, Philip. Let me see under your questions. Let me just see. Okay. Let's break this down a little bit. You know, a lot of white folks, and most white folks, are literally too defensive to even talk about it. So if we can't talk about it, we're in a lot of trouble. And an intentional way, I'll break it down like this. An intentional way to, great, I'm getting a call. An intentional way to really upset a white person is to call them racist. And that will just about guarantee that they won't hear another word you have to say after that. And this is because people are thinking of being racist as an individual who consciously does not like people based on their race and knowingly tries to harm them. This horrible, awful, racist individual is completely aware of what they're doing, and they hate other races, and they purposefully want to make their life miserable. So if this is your perception of what a racist person does, of course you're going to be immediately insulted and defensive. They're basically telling you you're a horrible person. But this definition of racism is referring to interpersonal racism, and it's this precise reason that a misunderstanding occurs about what we're talking about, and it makes a general discussion about systemic racism with white people almost impossible. An imperative step is to help white Americans understand that we are not talking about them personally as an individual. I mean, you might be, and probably for good reason, but discussing systemic racism gets them just as defensive as discussing interpersonal racism. And we were all born into this systemic stuff. So it's just somehow, if white people are going to get through to other white people and educate them, we have to figure out how to drop the defensiveness. And so they just need to know we're referring to a system. I hate to say it this way, but it's not about them. You know, it's about a system, because they always make it about themselves, which is tempting. You know, we've had a lot of practice. So in today's live show, I'm going to talk about systemic racism. And unlike interpersonal racism, systemic racism is about power over the masses, not about individual rotten people who are immoral, which is a lot of times what people think. Today in America, most white people have absolutely no concept about that our culture was purposely built on white supremacy. Good evening. Oh, hi, Philip. Thanks. Let me just look for some questions really fast. You're right. The first thing they say is, why are you playing the race card? And yeah, Philip, they don't see it. I know. They say, why are you playing the race card? Is when people say that, it's a fundamental, completely ignorant misunderstanding. The race card, if you're a person of color in America, you are the race card. There's no playing it. It's played in every single part of your life. I mean, it's everywhere. So it's complicated. It's so simple, yet it's so complicated. right, Tracy, we created the system. We need to figure this out and educate each other. I cannot emphasize that enough. Thank you, Tracy. I appreciate it. So if we're not taught the real racial history, the truth, the gory, barbaric, sick, depraved truth in school, aka real history, it makes it really, really hard for white people to understand systemic racism. It's a huge challenge, even if they're open to it. They don't know our system was built to help white elites accumulate wealth and power, and to make other white people feel that if they just worked a little harder, they too could be financially successful. It's a con job. They don't understand the concept of that race was intentionally invented as a dividing point. So they're not seeing the system, they're seeing it's all about them. And the saddest part is for them, they're working against themselves. I mean, hey, Lakeisha, thanks for being here. Yeah, they're literally going against their own best interest. Let's say they want to be racist still. They're still going against their own best interest. So today, the rich people, wealthy people are getting richer, and our middle class is dwindling, as most people know. The average white American is delusional if they think that real equality is going to happen without some sort of huge cultural shift. It's way past time for white Americans to educate themselves about a real racial history so they can understand that we're being played by the system. We're being used by the wealthiest elites, and we've been falling for it for centuries. So white people end up upholding racism in America. It's not just this depraved and inhumane thing they're doing. They're working against their own best interests. So it's time for white America to catch on. It's against our better interest to be racist. We need anti-racism programs in every public school in the United States. And we know that is not going to happen under this administration. The wealthy people literally will not allow it. It's not hard to teach anti-racism education. It takes time and it takes patience, but white people can do this thing. It's not for lack of having a program. It's not that. It's the people who, the powers that may be, they don't want it. We were all born into this system. It's not our fault, but that doesn't mean white people should just accept it and allow it to go on. Like, oh, I was born into it, so, it shouldn't be status quo. Systemic racism is extremely harmful, built in, and is kind of like this accepted as part of for the establishment group, I guess, is this accepted thing that we white folks just can't see. And a lot of it is the clever propaganda that is continuously being spewed in the United States by the wealthiest white elites to ensure that we remain divided from each other with fear and resentment, and we never see the real cause of our hardship, which is them. I mean, I know you guys know tons of, ways that Black people and people of color are demonized, and a lot of them are completely made up, like literally purposefully. We got serious propaganda thing going on. The demonizing of Black people as criminals, overly sexual, and oh my God, the lie. Ronald Reagan started the lie of the welfare queen. The welfare queen that he referenced was a white lady. In fact, he didn't even have to say it wasn't, because everyone assumed it was a Black person. I mean, this stuff's sick. It's built into our society. And white America just eats it up and has since the very beginning. It's way past time for us to take racial responsibility. When I say this, I always like to qualify it. People of color and Black people, they're going to get their equality. They're going to get it. They don't need a white savior. They're going to save themselves, and they are saving themselves. But I personally believe that this process needs to be expedited with our support. And it's in our own best interest. If you're the most racist white person on the planet, it's still in your best interest, unless you're incredibly white and incredibly wealthy. So, I can't stop someone from having thoughts like that, but they're going against their own interests, and they're destroying our culture and our country. Not our culture, but they're destroying what could be. I truly feel like this nation could be at the forefront of the cutting edge of humanity, but instead we're literally getting in line to be compared to nations that are horrific. And I truly believe it's because we are horrific. And in some ways, it's good that Trump came along, because now there's no cognitive dissonance. We are truly living. You know, we're not living that lie in the sense that people are just outwardly racist and discriminatory. I mean, this is America, and it's always been America. But now people are letting loose and letting it show. It's disgusting. But I don't know, maybe that'll do something. I don't know. I'm pretty much beside myself. But if anyone wants to jump in and add anything, I would absolutely love it. Oh, there we go. Scrolling down would help. Lakeisha, they taught hate from birth to graduation. Oh, absolutely. And Philip, the real history is the super rich use the poor white to do their dirty work. And the sad thing is, they get laughed at in the rich people's dinner parties, and they give them a little bone, and they laugh all the way to the bank. Philip, you read my mind. I imagine these wealthy people just laughing in the face of these suckers, these white people who are suckers to this. It's like, what fools, what total fools. We're playing the fool. You know, we literally are playing the fool. Philip, the only thing that will change, the only thing that will change is if we stand up and wake up. As long as the poor and middle class whites don't wake up, the upper 1% will win, and we all lose. The system is set to have the middle class and poor work till we die. Absolutely. It's like this fantasy, the American dream. I want to be rich like them, and and it's all the fault of the people of color and people in historically marginalized groups. Couldn't be less true. It couldn't be. It's the opposite. Yeah, Lakeisha says, true, Kim, and war is coming soon. I don't know what to say, because this is insanity, what we have right now. And it's not right, and it's not fair. Something has to happen. So anyway, when I talk about our criminal justice system, it's even, anyway, our criminal justice system in America is an absolute joke. When it comes to equality, it's a joke. It's a system of no justice. And the scariest thing is, the system isn't broken. It's working exactly as planned. Lakeisha says Armageddon's coming. I don't know how much longer people in historically marginalized groups in our country can take this horrific, horrific treatment. It's killing people. I don't know, but yeah, I got to keep remembering to scroll down. Philip, I hope not, because we cannot win a civil war. Yeah, see, here's the problem. I don't know what you guys think, but I feel like the Civil War never ended. It just changed drastically in form and camouflaged itself. And we'll talk a little bit about that right now. But yeah, I hope not, but I don't know what's going to happen. But it's definitely, I do know one thing, and I know it from the bottom of my heart. White Americans need to start educating themselves, and they need to start teaching other white Americans the truth. Because once you know the truth, oh my God, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not special, but once I figured out the truth, I was like, this is sick. But I was like a really little kid. I don't even really remember it much, but the truth is so freeing because it rings so true. It's everything you see and everything you've ever wondered. You realize it's all because of systemic racism. So the stuff that's just built into the system. So our system isn't broken. It is exactly how it's supposed to be. Lakeisha, did you see the boy who was harassed by a white mall security officer to sell his CDs? Oh, no, I did not see that. But you know what I saw? you can, if you want to write about it, I'll definitely talk about it. I don't think I saw that. There's so much going on right now. I saw that little boy in this like corner store get the sickest thing. Some white lady said he touched her on the bottom and that it was sexual harassment, and she went kind of crazy. It was disgusting. This poor little sweet 9-year-old boy. And it clearly showed he didn't touch her. And even if he did, my God, I know he didn't. He's a 9-year-old boy. They're in close quarters. Give me a break. Just, it's disgusting and it's unconscionable. But so today, as we speak, wealthy, ignorant, racist, bigoted white men, I'm just going to say it, like Trump and his clan, are adding new dimensions to fine-tune the system and widen the gap in a way we have yet to see or imagine. I mean, they're at work. They know exactly what they're doing. And Philip, yeah, oh, he was crying, and oh, Lakeisha, he was crying, and he said he wouldn't forgive. I know, that little boy, oh my God, imagine that family being traumatized like that. I was so upset, and I can't even watch it anymore. Philip, but look at the white women who still support Trump and the GOP, even when they see the fact checking telling them that they're in trouble of losing their rights as women. Literally, Philip, it's a great comment. All I can say, and I don't know what you think. I don't know what to say other than they love their racism so much they're willing to go against their own human rights. This stuff is so deep in our system. Like I have to tell you, I mean, it's almost unbelievable. If I read this in a book, what's going on, I don't think I believe it. It's like, I really this is insanity. So systemic racism is great. Thank you. Great comments. Systemic racism is built in, and these new subsystems for it are being invented. For what I mean by that is in the current, like past decade, mass incarceration is this term that everybody knows now. And basically, this mass incarceration of people of color is relatively new to this generation and this era. And it was started up again in our lifetime. Another example is having full-time police stationed in our neighborhood schools. I don't know, for people who don't have kids in school right now, I don't know if you're aware, there's a lot of schools, at least the high schools in our area and the middle schools, they have police there. And some of them are great, but, you know, guess who's arrested more and given suspensions more? People of color, the Black children. I mean, this type of criminalizing children's behavior has created this, in our generation, this school to prison pipeline with students of color being disproportionately represented, of course. And it's disgusting. These kids are getting handcuffed and suspended for things. When I was a teacher in Compton, California, these are things the kids would do. It's called being a kid. And now they're literally being arrested and charged. And I mean, it's out of control. So for today's live show, my goal isn't to dispute that the system is rigged or to show you outlandish statistics. The system is rigged, and I could show you mind-boggling statistics. It's rigged, all right. And there are outrageously cruel single examples that we could talk about all day. My purpose today is to show you how to exemplify, not show necessarily my viewers because they're my friends and they know this better than I do, but to show white America that we can talk about this. We can talk about this civilly, and we need to talk about this because it's killing people. My purpose today is to show how at every single step of the way in our supposed system of justice, it's filled with inequality for people of color in America. Every little step. It's not an accident. It's devastating. Our legal system in America exemplifies the accumulative nature of racial oppression and cruelty under the guise of justice. One of the best examples is the 13th Amendment. when it states that citizens cannot be enslaved unless they're convicted of a crime. A lot of white folks don't know slavery is absolutely legal in America. They don't get it. Yep, Lakeisha, they continue to facilitate it and excuse it. Hi, Robert. Thanks for being here. I appreciate people watching, and I very much appreciate your input. Just anything you want to talk about, just throw it on there, and I'm getting a little better at this. I'm just going to keep blabbing because we have a lot to talk about tonight. So let's start with some fun facts that most, educated people know already, but it's extremely important to start with this to know the overall picture. Despite our country having 5% of the population, we currently boast 25% of the incarcerated population of the world. That's disgusting. That's sick. We talk about all this freedom. What a crock of you-know-what. 25% of the people in the world. No other nation that keeps figures to qualify it has more people incarcerated than in the United States. And I could go on and on about the statistics. I said I wasn't going to. But within that population, there is no group that is more harmed disproportionately and disproportionately impacted than people of color. And Black people, especially Black Americans. Mass incarceration has destroyed them. And they are in our nation. It's destroyed our nation. Here's a sobering thought to think about. This is kind of a sobering thought to consider, that our baseline culture, our national system of criminal justice, was set and developed at a time in our nation when we did not consider African American people to be humans. It's not surprising that the UN is constantly mentioning our name all the time. They recently revealed that, big shock to us, we have a deep racial disparity. I'm just reading this. A deep racial disparity in America's criminal justice system. It's like, no duh, my God. I mean, our name is constantly coming up with the UN. And it's not just humiliating, it's disgusting. Lakeisha, innocent ones in prison. Oh, we are going to talk about that. Absolutely. This current supposed system of justice we have in the United States was not made to treat people of color fairly. It was made for white people. It was made for white, wealthy people. And how do we know this? How do we know this? Hi, Stephen. Thanks for being here. Well, the results speak for themselves. If current trends continue, I've read a ton of stuff. 1 in 4 African American males born in this decade can expect to go to prison in their lifetime. 1 in 4. That's sick. The Reuters group, according to the Reuters group, they say that Black and Latino men are twice as likely as white men to die during an interaction with police, according to new studies. I mean, from what we've seen in society, that's another duh, but it's good to have, legit places telling it like it is, because some people who are white are literally sheltered from this. They don't know what we're talking about, and they need to understand. And a lot of it's because of segregation is I heard segregation, and I don't know this for a fact, is pre-64 segregation. It's so bad. And I absolutely believe it. Tracy, oops. Hi, Stephen. Thanks for saying hi. Tracy. Yeah, no, you do not have to, Tracy says, we do not have to forgive them and the atrocities they bestowed upon us. Absolutely not. Forgive. I don't know if this is what you're talking about, Tracy, but how can white people be forgiven? We're still doing it. It's like a person who beats their wife and saying, as they smack her in the face, don't you forgive me? As they're blooding her face. And we're not even close to that point. People don't even admit it. People do not, 50% of white Americans think they're the ones that are oppressed. I don't even want to get into that because I'm just going to get upset. But Absolutely. Yeah, we're not, yeah. Sorry, I got kind of in a rampage there. I don't know. People tell me that your take on this, they tell me, okay, before we continue, I think it's important to understand something, and this just kills me because this just takes the cake. It's important to understand that there's no real unified, computerized, in our modern time, accurate and honest way of collecting national data about police and what they do. And that's just real convenient. So the current system of reporting relies on voluntary reporting by police departments, if they report at all. And there's no monitoring if they're being fair, honest, even if they're even telling the truth. I have to guess that this lackadaisical record keeping and monitoring is very purposeful. It leaves law enforcement literally unaccountable, just unaccountable. And Philip says, look at the rich white boy in Texas who came out and said in court that he can't be put in jail because of his, oh yeah, I remember that, absolutely. Then he ran to Mexico and they went and got him and still just gave him a slap on the wrist. Yep, all this after he killed 4 people and harmed, yep, oh yes, yep. Okay, thanks Tracy, I was right on. Okay, I thought that's what you were talking about, but I don't want to misrepresent. Yeah, there's no forgiving. Hi Keith, thank you for being here. I want to read what Keith has to say. Hi Kimberly, I'm here. The wealth and injustice, inequality in our country and the world is truly staggering. And what we need is a modern day Robin Hood, whether that be in the form of a singular charismatic leader or a bold governing body or a combination of the two. Something major would have to happen. Maybe the Trump experiment disaster will help wake us up as a nation, but we have a long way to go from where we are now, and it's hard not to despair sometimes, but for some reason I choose to hold on to hope. Thank you, Keith. I'm so glad you do. I personally pretty much lose my faith in humanity and white people probably every week at least once, or I'm truly devastated. But you know what? It's not about me. And that's what brings me back. I had a friend tell me something once, and he's kind of a hardcore guy. When Trump first got elected, I was trying to educate people and, I mean, just do what I could. And I'll tell you, I was freaking out. And he said, Kim, get over yourself. We've been doing this for a long time and we will survive. And it's kind of humbling, but I needed that. I needed a little slap in the head. So Tracy, they just pulled a bus over full of black people that was heading to the vote. Yes, I saw that just in the news. I'm going to read what you say because I don't know if everybody saw that. They were headed to the voting booth in Georgia, took them off the bus and told them that they couldn't vote together. What the hell is that about? I read an article on that. They are literally monsters. They are monsters. Philip, that's the police unions making sure that the laws hide their crimes against people. The only way to get justice in police crimes is to go after the unions. Then they have to, when they have meetings to get laws changed to protect, they have meetings to protect the police. Tracy, we need Django. Tell me more about that because I'm not in the loop with that. They're stacking the deck. Hi, Errol. Thanks for being here. Yeah, it is unbelievable. I was just going to say something about that. Well, we have these professions that are held to such extreme standards. Somehow we make the one profession where you're basically allowed to murder with impunity, shoot people who are begging for forgiveness and begging you not to kill them, shoot people in the back. The white sheets, Stephen, the white sheets for the blue uniforms. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Yet for police, we're not monitoring them. They're not held accountable. It's enraging. It's enraging on so many levels. this racism on a systemic level is very complicated yet so simple. It's a strange thing when you try to study it. We need to study it. White people need to study it, and they need to take some responsibility in making it stop by teaching other white folks. I mean, in my opinion, there needs to be a minimum standard at the federal level. I'm not trying to take away people's freedoms, but this is out of control. And we talk about freedom and liberty for all. What a crock of you know what. Yeah, if you're white and are decently wealthy, but everyone else, forget it. There needs to be some minimum standard. Errol, hi. Thanks for saying hi. Philip, the GOP is trying to keep control of the Senate and Congress. Yeah, yep, I know. And honestly, not to get off topic, but if we don't take back, if this doesn't turn blue on one side, I don't know what to say about white people. I'm disgusted. And I know there's a lot of good people out there who are going to fight for this and try to educate people, but this should happen decades and decades ago. It's unconscionable. Lakeisha, Black people on the verge of committing suicide because this racism is killing our people slowly. Yeah, yep. Oh, I cannot tell you, Lakeisha, how many of my friends of color, my friends who are indigenous, my friends who are brown, Black, are suffering such emotional, I mean, how could they not? This is insanity. And it's so unfair and it's so cruel. And it's all on purpose. Anyway. It's time we're going to start talking about breaking down the system to show you the additive impact it has on people. And I want to start with, we're going to use the supposed system of justice to break it down. I'd love your input. Philip, if it doesn't, we're all going to lose. And that's the craziest part, Philip. These white folks don't get it. They're destroying themselves. I mean, everyone else with them, but they're destroying themselves. Anyway, I could rant on and on. So let's start by talking about police stops for motorists and pedestrians, since that's the most common way people come in contact with police. Racial profiling of people of color is epidemic in America. And I think it's safe to say that it's been this way since the first police originated from slave catcher patrols in the South. So incredibly racist and discriminating. The most conservative statistic that I could find, okay, thanks, Tracy. I want people who are my friends to educate me, because I learn something every day. And I study this all the time and I talk to people, but I still learn something every day. I just wanted to throw in, for white people, it's a lifelong journey. We will never get there, but we have to keep trying. I'll keep learning till the day I die. And it's because I'll never know what it's truly like to live in a society that devalues and is cruel and makes it so incredibly hard, yet talks about this big lie as if it's just all the rage, the American dream. Liberty and justice for all. What a joke. There was one, the most conservative statistic I could find were that Black men were twice as likely to be pulled over by police when driving. But most agree it's much worse than that. So, it's hard to say exactly, but I ran across a study that blew me away. It was really telling. It was out of Connecticut, and it showed racial disparities in traffic stops during the day, like you wouldn't believe. When the race of the driver can be seen, but not at night. That's racial profiling, and that's kind of a proof of it. So that was definitely, I read that twice. For people listening to the live show, what's been your experience about racial profiling and, with regards to all that? I mean, it's the differential treatment is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Next, let's talk a little bit about being in. Go ahead and jump in on any of that. We can backtrack, no problem at all. I want to talk about being searched. Now, I've never been searched by a police. I've been pulled over, but I've never been searched. So after being pulled over, there's a drastically higher rate for people of color than white folks to be pulled over and searched. Once stopped, I guess this, you know, you can find statistics. Yeah, Jim Crow, Steven says Jim Crow 2.0. Yep. Once stopped, a black person and Hispanic, a person who is Latino, Hispanic, black, have 3 times the chance of being searched and humiliated like that, you know, compared to white people. And guess who said that? Guess who gave us that stat? The U.S. Bureau of Justice and Statistics. I mean, this is from our own country. You know, the results are that police search people of color more, much more, and whites less. Yet, every study I read, they find whites to be more likely to have something illegal. So I mean, this is insane. According to the same U.S. Bureau of Justice Statistics, white drivers were also given tickets at slightly lower rates than black and Latino and Hispanic drivers, which implies that, you know, it implies that they're getting off somehow a little bit, even for the tickets if they have done something. Tracy, that got people thinking Christopher Columbus discovered America and our rapist for so-called father on Mount Rushmore is the greatest of all. Yeah. When my little, not to bring myself into this, but my little kid got to, for Famous People Day, she was going to be a founding father. It's like over my dead freaking body. I mean, obviously she's little and I worked it out, you know, covertly, but I wanted to say to her teacher, are you kidding me? Not happening. And you know what? I have my white privilege and I can make that happen a lot easier, and it's not fair. And it's not right. And this is just, the whole thing's sick on so many levels. I don't know if I'm, Tracy, I don't know if I'm getting exactly what you're trying to say, but yeah, we have rapists on the mountain we can all bow down to. So people of color in our society are not afforded this benefit of the doubt, I guess we could call it. Next, let's talk a little bit about force, which, yeah, Lakeisha, that is why black people need cameras in their cars and homes. Absolutely. And on the sites that I run, I encourage all white people, and I'm not speaking for white people, I am not speaking for people of color, but speaking for like common sense. If you see someone pull over to the road and they're a person of color, be a citizen. Take your camera out. Make sure they're okay. I mean, this is crazy. It's the least we can do. I mean, anyway. Oh, Philip, I was in New York in '88 and I was going to New York City. I got stopped in New Jersey, Virginia, North Carolina. Wait, what? I got stopped in New Jersey, Virginia, North Carolina on the way down, then stopped in every state on the way. Are you kidding me? In New Jersey, I got set up by an off-duty cop and 2 state troopers. Then they searched my car from top to tip. Oh my God. Got a ticket for, yeah, that's not profiling. That's ludicrous. It's like sick. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Tracy, pay attention to all the lies they're teaching the kids. Oh yeah. Okay, thanks, Tracy. I just want to make sure I'm as close as I can be. Philip, I've been stopped in every state in the, oh my God. I drove that's the sickest thing I've ever heard. That's really upsetting. Black labor, white wealth, Tracy says. We need guns because that's what they're killing us with, Tracy says. Yeah, something's got to happen. It's got to be huge because people can't take this much longer. It's I've noticed a shift on social media this shift over time, people are just closing down. They're closing down. It's pretty bad. So let me just see. Where was I with force? Force, like I have to say anything. According to a recent report by the Center for Policing Equity, found that police are more likely, hey, you might want to sit for this big shock, more likely to use tasers, dogs, pepper spray, and physical force against Black people than white people when they arrest them. Gee whiz. Thanks for that. I mean, this isn't exactly shocking, but anyone who follows any type of media in the US has seen this over and over. These sick videos. Oh, hi JS, thanks for being here. Jump right in. We have a lot to talk about. We see this differential treatment exhibited to this unprofessional, out of control, racist police who wouldn't dare do these things to white people. We can't talk about, and I don't want to talk too much about this because I seriously, I get kind of emotional about it because it's so unfair and so wrong. But we need to, at some point in one of these live shows, talk about systemic racism and speak about the impact on Black people psychologically, sociologically, as families, communities, our nation. We are doing so much damage to our fellow humans in the form of stress, fear, constant burden of worry. It's a constant burden of worry. Philip, then in New York, I got stopped by the police and they planted drugs in my car just to get my car. They told me I got arrested for disorderly conduct, but they hide the drug charge and they took my car. I think you need to be on this live show and tell your stories. That's, oh man. The fact, I hate to say this because this is kind of cliche, but I think white America is lucky that people of color just want equality and not revenge. Because, I don't know. Oh, hi, Anna. It's okay that you're late. I'm happy you're here. I don't even know what to say. God, Philip, I am so sorry that you... Neil, a white woman people have dubbed golf court Gail. Yeah, I read about. Called the police on a Black man for cheering on his son during a soccer game. I saw it. I read 3 articles on it. I don't know what to say. These people, they need consequences. Okay, I lied. I do know what to say. They need consequences. We need, in my opinion, on the federal level, minimum standards. Our police need minimum standards. And I felt kind of good about one story, one out of billions, where the police literally taught the woman how to press charges on the creepy racist that terrified her. It was just so nice to see. Tracy, they say 2 wrongs don't make it right, but it does make it. Yeah, I will not judge a person of color what they think. I literally can't, because I don't know what I would do. I know how upset I am as a white person, a privileged white person, and I'm not into revenge and all that stuff, but I'll tell you, I've never gone through anything remotely. This is like a whole nother, the way we treat our own citizens is disgusting, and I wouldn't blame them. People who want revenge. Let me just see here. JS, let racists continue to call the police for petty reasons. Record and post to social media. They are all, yes. And I sound evil, but I love it. I love it. Because just because it's legal doesn't mean it's okay to do. It's immoral. It's like they're trying to get people killed. And when they lose their jobs, you can't change a person's heart who has this racism, but you sure as hell can shut them up in public. And if that's, JS, if that's all we do, it's working. Because I have tons of people constantly writing to me, and with all the different places all over the country, and it's working. You're completely right. People are losing their jobs. Yet it seems like they're not learning. I mean, no comment, but anyway, absolutely, it's working, JS. You can't be rational with irrational people. And Tracy, we are not safe. Absolutely. I mean, talk about PTSD, and my God, I have a friend who I love dearly. She's afraid to leave her house. She's afraid to leave her house in the United States of America. She's not a criminal. She's an amazing woman. Anna, I live in New York, and I can definitely tell you that things have become more intense ever since the gentrification of so many neighborhoods. It's as if white privilege has arrived at our doorstep. The snooty attitude that so many of them have is pathetic. They only associate with themselves and give everybody else a look of disgust. Yep, absolutely. It's taken on a whole new life of its own. Philip, trust me, I have to go to the Veterans Hospital, to the doctors, to keep control of my anger. I try to stay away from people. I'm almost 60 years old, and I still get stopped for being Black. I get pulled over for crossing a solid white. Oh my God, Philip, my heart goes out to you. It's disgusting. So sorry that you endure that. It's so incredibly wrong. I talk to people who are pulled over all the time. It's like, I cannot emphasize enough how insane this is. And I hope white America can watch this and hear you, what you're saying. It's so wrong. I mean, the damage alone, I think we should do a live show on just the damage alone and what it does. It's like, just like the black codes and the lynchings. Today's step-by-step discrimination in our supposed system of justice is aimed at terrorizing our Black, brown, and indigenous brothers and sisters through this arbitrary violence that you never know when, you never know, but it'll just happen randomly. That's terrorism. JS, loot in the air to oh, shoot in the air to frighten gentrifiers. Nice. Okay, obviously, that's JS. I don't know. The whole thing's... Let's start talking a little bit about, and jump in if you have anything to say about this, the system that of supposed justice that at every step of the way is discriminating and racist and cruel to people of color in America. Being charged. This one is the subjectivity alone of being charged is such a dominant and controlling thing in the criminal process. It's largely unchecked. And it's up to prosecutors who have implicit bias, outright over racism, subconscious this, conscious that, I don't know. They have so much, it's so subjective over the people's lives. I mean, at every step, it was not made, our system was not made to give equality to people of color. The plea bargaining, the stages in the process could be literally the result of unconscious and deeply internalized bias from racist people all along the way. And it's accumulative. There are no rules for police or prosecutors or judges or attorneys for measuring implicit bias or outright discriminatory practices. It's a free-for-all. JS, the lynchings now are in the form of 911 calls followed by death. Yep. It's just changed in form. It's bad. You know, just thinking about a prosecutor dropping a case, that's pretty subjective. Now, your case is going to be dropped. I mean, or no, we're not going to drop your case. Please, plea offers based on the type of felonies paint a very bleak picture for people of color. Charges for the same crimes, they can be labeled as, a lot of you know this, they can be labeled differently, and their mandatory minimum sentencing can be applied or not applied based on this label. It's arbitrary, and it's not objective. It's not blind. If you recall, the first thing Sessions did was to tell state prosecutors to reinstate all the mandatory minimums for drug charges. This was at his discretion, so that the judges will have no say in the circumstances of what the case is about. And we'll go into his the way he's benefiting from that. He's benefiting from that. JS, the police have race issues, mental issues, and the municipality they're in does a terrible job in selecting these police cops to patrol. Well, the standards are extreme. The training, absolutely, Jess. I mean, training in de-escalation alone is literally lacking in some of these places. What they do train in, and I saw, a study done by a pretty legit place, and they train them how to shoot people. They have that training, but de-escalation, even understanding who's disabled, the difference between a drunk person and a person with mental illness. I mean, of all the jobs and professions, to have the least amount of, ways to keep it safe and regulate it, it's no accident. It's very purposeful, and it's disgusting. I want to talk about juvenile arrests, and jump in with anything you guys have to say. I'll keep scrolling. I want you to tell me what you think, and I want to be able to say it. According to the Sentencing Project and a number of other statistics, Black youth are twice as likely to be arrested for crimes in school as white kids. 2.5 times as likely to be arrested for curfew violations as white kids. Who do you know that hasn't gone out after? I mean, twice as likely as white kids to be arrested for all crimes, and much more likely to be held in detention than white kids. This is the school to prison pipeline. They keep you out of school. You don't do well. It's pretty bad. It's sick. Lakeisha, white privilege is why I see a lot of racists smile all the time on social media. It's disgusting. They're having a good old time, aren't they? I don't know what to say. We see these videos of these little boys. Remember the video of the little boy being handcuffed, and it was a false identity, or it wasn't him. Even if it was, my God, he was like 9 years old. He peed himself. He was terrified. This stuff is sick. And I mean, videos of, remember the video of the girl, actually she's like a young woman being flipped over by some police. This is a whole other world with the police, and just the impact of the psyche for these people is it's out of control. Philip, in Beaumont, Texas, I had a judge telling me point blank he will believe the policeman over me and 3 witnesses when I got a ticket for telling the cop he give a damn about the safety of me or my daughter. He wanted to arrest me for disorderly conduct, but I went through that in New York. So I asked him his meaning of disorderly conduct, and he said causing a crowd. But only one out was a man. Only person out was a man reading his Sunday paper, and my friend. And my friend I had just dropped up at the store at his home, so he couldn't. What crowd is? I think what you're saying. What crowd? Philip, my life has not been a bed of roses. I've had to fight for everything I've had. Oh, I believe it. Tracy, America has been like this. Yeah, this is not how life's supposed to be. And I personally hold white America responsible. We all need to take some racial responsibility. Yeah, we didn't create this, but we're living in this. And by doing nothing, we're upholding this. And we're allowing this to propagate as the norm. It's way past time for white America to step up to the plate, educate themselves, and start educating each other. I wish I could do more. I honestly do. I'm going to talk about drug arrests a little bit. Again, another step in the process. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, let me just get my cursor here. The study found that drug and alcohol abuse among white and blacks, every study I look at, similar, the same. But when it comes to drug arrests, blacks are arrested at a rate more than twice the percentage in their population. 29% of drug arrests, according to the FBI statistics. These are not some company. This is the FBI. Are African American people. According to this Vera Institute in Massachusetts, and this is a while back, but 2004, it reviewed the sentencing data that showed Black and Latino people, accounted for 80% of the drug-free zone convictions, even though 45% of those arrested statewide were white. I mean, these statistics discriminating are off the charts. The impact of incarceration is a whole show in itself. It destroys families. When children are involved, losing their parents, there's damage at every level. It thwarts their development. Their parents are being imprisoned. It's isolating. What are you going to do? Go to your peers and say, oh yeah, well, daddy just, he's not at home because he's in prison. Talk about being isolated. When people are sent to prison, they lose their housing, their jobs, their children, their cars, if they have a payment, their dignity, their self-worth. It's disgusting. JS, I see cops. I cross the street. Years back, I'd mouth off. Now I walk the opposite way. Kids and wife need me. Guff. Absolutely. Oh, God. It's a police state. Police arrest for marijuana. While marijuana is used similarly between people of color and white communities, blacks are 3.7, according to this same study, more likely to be arrested for possession of marijuana than whites. And I'm not even going to get into the whole war on drugs. That's a whole other show. But what about the people who are given ludicrous punitive sentencing for marijuana use, personal marijuana use, and things like that, in states that it's legal now? You can do that. I mean, the unfairness is on every level. Really quickly, because I got to wrap this up. I don't want to keep you guys. Pre-trial release is something personally for me that is, I mean, all of this is upsetting, but this is unconscionable in a very, very sick way. The National Academy of Science found that Black people are more likely than white to be incarcerated while waiting trial. Our bail system has changed, and innocent people who have not been tried, okay, you're not guilty, they have not been found guilty, are sitting in jails. One study showed that the non-felony conviction rate jumps from 50% to 92% for those jailed pre-trial. Let me put that in English. If you can't afford bail, you are screwed, okay? There's all of a sudden, the chances that you're going to get convicted go really, really high up. And there's a number of reasons why. But one of them is, I'll say felony cases jumped from 59% to 85% if you can't get out. Whether you're detained before trial can very well predict whether you are eventually convicted. As people become desperate to leave jail, that they do plea bargains, and they plea out to stuff they didn't do. And then you get picked up again, you have a record. I mean, this is sick. This is sick. I don't remember the details, but there's I remember a young Black man. He was kept in prison for stealing a backpack for so long, and he killed himself when he got out. he was tortured. I mean, I can't even quantify this incredible unfairness on so many levels. I mean, think about like the absence of mental health services and physical health services. And according to the Huffington Post, nearly 750,000 inmates are confined in jails around the United States at any time, and between 60% and 70% have not been convicted. They are legally innocent. That's mind-blowing to me. JS, the goal of rogue police is to ruin your life as much as they can. They will never be friends of mine, not even hello. Oh, definitely. And a lot of people are, probably thinking, oh, Kim, you're being so unfair. I'm talking about the cultural perspective, what's happening in our culture. Of course, there are amazing individuals. Of course there are. But there has to be more than amazing individuals. This has to be part of our lifestyle. I mean, we walk around spewing this liberty and justice for all BS. We need to actually live up to it. I want to talk for a second about rest in peace. Okay, thanks, Jess. The prosecuting and charges. Federal prosecutors are supposedly twice as likely to file charges carrying mandatory minimum sentences for African Americans than whites. I'm telling you, if white people who are watching, what I want them to get out of this is that there's not just racial discrimination that's systemic. It's at every single level. Every level. They are not going to let you have equality. And this is according to a University of Michigan study that was published. The federal prosecutors, if you're a person of color, you're going to get a mandatory minimum sentence, if they can get you. Prison versus community service, the same thing. The National Academy of Sciences stated that Black people are more likely than whites to receive prison term rather than community service. And Black people are imprisoned at twice the rate of white people in the United States, according to our own U.S. Department of Justice. And the lengths of incarceration, the same thing at every level. The National Academy of Sciences states that after conviction, Black people are more than twice as likely to receive longer sentences. I think 20% was the mark that I've seen over time. I mean, I could go on and on. I said I wasn't going to go statistic crazy, but drug incarcerations, the Bureau of Justice Statistics reports 208,000 people are in state prisons for drug offenses. And of this number, 32% are white and 68% are African American or Hispanic. And kind of getting, this isn't like we have like, oh, a little problem. This is catastrophic. Catastrophic. And for white folks that are listening, please educate yourself. Please, and educate your friends. This is what we do. And we turn a blind eye. Oh, doesn't hurt me any. The federal court sentencing, 19% longer time periods in federal court for people of color. That was a 4-year study by the U.S. Sentencing Commission. Incarceration of women. Black women are incarcerated at 3 times the rate of white women. They're sentenced to life without parole. Over 60% of prisoners serving life without parole for non-violent offenses are Black. This is a part I talked a lot with my friend Tim about because this is what he helps to do. Hiring people with criminal records. A number of studies have come out showing this over and over. But having a criminal record hurts a person's ability to get a job, but it hurts Black people and people of color, men especially, much worse. In fact, white men with a criminal record have a better chance of getting a positive response from a job search than black men without a criminal record. This has been confirmed in a study. They had 6,000 applicants in Arizona and an earlier study in Milwaukee and New York. Yeah, liberty and justice for all. Eliminating the right to vote. Racist politicians in America have come up with this dishonest, barbaric way to keep black people from voting, and by sending them to prison. And it's their special way they love, and making it so that they lose their vote. I mean, this has been historical. Obviously, you guys know, since the beginning. But I'm not even talking about the gerrymandering. I'm not even talking about the closing of offices where you can vote and the closing of DMVs where you can actually get a license. And I mean, it's criminal. The impact is devastating. Some studies show 1 out of 13 African Americans in the United States has lost their right to vote for felony disenfranchisement versus 1 in 56 non-black people. Some things people say, oh, it's not a conspiracy, but you know what? Some things are, and this is one of them. Some things actually are a conspiracy. I need to wrap this up because I'm taking way too long and talking everyone's ears off. JS, our reality folks have, absolutely. White folks have no idea. They have no clue what this is like. Yep, liberty and justice for white people. Yep, that's what it is. Unbelievable. Yet we white folks go about our business. Doesn't impact us. This is the one I hear. They should just do what the police say. That enrages me. Do it. Oh, thanks for the advice. It doesn't matter if you do what they say. A racist police person, and at all these levels, they're going to get you. You can be Mother Teresa. They're going to get you. It's systemic, and it's purposeful, and it's sick and cruel. So I just wanted to keep talking, despite showing that this is something I just needed to say. Despite showing that harsher sentences do very little to deter crime, less than a month into Trump's presidency, Sessions put out a memo directing federal prosecutors to pursue the most severe penalties possible for drug offenses. And actually, if you go to Sessions' own U.S. Department of Justice website right now, it states on there, sending an individual convicted of a crime to prison isn't a very effective way to deter crime, and that increasing the severity of punishment does very little to deter crime. That's one of their own research statistics, and it's on the actual site. Yet he made these mandatory minimums for federal drug crimes, a policy that the Justice Department had backed away from under Barack Obama. And it's no shock that the Trump administration wants private prisons, because guess what? Lo and behold, they're in on it. The administration benefits by keeping them full because Sessions has stock in private prisons. And we won't really know much about if Trump does. I'm assuming he does, because we don't see any of his stuff. But the impact on people of color since Trump and his overt racism has gotten there. It's the best year they ever had for private prisons and making money. Big shock. Private prisons are more accurately called for-profit. Let me just get some. Yeah, Tracy, Kim, they're trying to put black people back on the plantation. Absolutely. Right, the 13th Amendment. Forced labor. Yep. It's unbelievable. For free. Nothing, like a penny a day. That is why we have to watch our backs constantly. Yep. Tracy, Bill Clinton has a private prison. Tell me more. I want to. JS, they're all in on this. Like I said before, they've been waiting for this day since the end. Absolutely. These people have been waiting for this day. The seriously overtly racist ones racist ones, they've been waiting for this day since the end of the Civil War. I'm not trying to be nasty. I'm speaking the truth. Private prisons are more accurately called for-profit prisons. They literally suck the life out of people in them. They are making money off racism. And personally, I find that disgusting and vile. And as many of you guys probably recall, the Obama administration had announced it would end the Justice Department's reliance on private prisons, because private prisons at the federal level consistently fail to measure up to any standards. They're dangerous, and they're for making money off of people's sorrow. I mean, I hate to even bring this up, but when there's a natural disaster or catastrophe, they leave people in prisons to fend for themselves. They leave them for dead. I mean, I don't know if you guys have been reading this stuff, but they're treating them worse than an animal. One of the first things Trump did was to undo all of the improvements in ending private prisons. And like I said, Trump's first year has been, the statistics on his first year have been the private prison industry has had the best year ever. Gee whiz, at the expense of people of color. Private prisons having a vacant cell, they don't make money. So there's this huge incentive to incarcerate as many people as possible. And taken together, these facts demonstrate, all this demonstrates the deep embedded criminal system that we have. And we dare not call this justice. This is sick, and it's purposeful. According to the NAACP, out of the 2.3 million people who are incarcerated in the United States right now, an estimated 1 million of them are people of color, Black people. This is sick and cruel and unconscionable. I want to take a couple more. I'm so sorry I'm talking so much. This is a huge topic, and it's disgusting. In a country that boasts liberty and justice for all, what a crock of shit. JS, they earn that cash off of Black and Hispanic folks. It's total, yeah, right. It's insane. I mean, here in America, white folks are living a lie. We're living a lie. And I can't stop talking about it because it's the sickest thing on the planet. I'm going to try to wrap up. If you have anything else to add, go ahead right now. I cannot thank you enough for being here. This is a very intense subject. I hope I wasn't too crazed. It's unconscionable. But thank you so much for being here. I didn't get to talk about the sick impact that systemic racism has on individuals, families, and communities. I think that's going to be a whole nother show. If you believe it's way past time for white America to educate ourselves about the truth, about our sick, depraved racial history, and the current inequality that still goes on because of this, please support my efforts by subscribing to my YouTube channel and spreading the word to white America. It's time for white people to educate themselves and to start educating white Americans. It's time to take some racial responsibility, white America. So thank you so much for being there. Let's get out there, and if you're white, get out there and learn and teach other white people about systemic racism, not interpersonal. Tell them the truth about our nation's barbaric treatment of our brothers and sisters of color at every level. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time. Bye.